Folks, became entranced with comics the first time I picked up an Uncle Scrooge comic. You read that thing and it grabs you by the throat. You really care about the characters. Carl Barks put his heart and soul into everything he did. You got a sense when you're reading that comic that it wasn't just another comic. Because let's face it, most comics aren't very good. I think it's Sturgeon's rule that 90% of everything is crap. Uh, that may not be a hard and fast rule, but it's generally true because people want to do something in the worst possible way, and they often do, especially in the arts. People want to succeed in the arts. They want to write, they want to draw, they want to sing, they want to dance and act, but only the very best talent makes it to the top. And often that's due to luck and being in the right place at the right time. But to get back to comics, my thesis is that comics are the most forgiving medium there is. You can get away with things in comics that you couldn't in any other medium. And the proof is just look at the history of comics, starting with, say, Superman, or the Cats and Jammer Kids, or Sad Sack, or Little Abner, any of those classic American strips, which appeared for years before another medium snatched them up. And of course, Superman is the arch typal example because not only is Superman the archetype of archetypes, but people couldn't get enough of him. When he first appeared in 1939, Superman was a huge bestseller. It captured the zeitgeist of the moment and perhaps the zeitgeist of the millennium because, let's face it, we're still obsessed with Superman to this day. Now, they tried to bring Superman to the screen as a TV show in the 50s and 60s starring George Reeves. And for those of you who have seen it, you know that it's cheesy, that they have George suspended by wires from the ceiling while they blow a fan on him to simulate flying. And it wasn't until decades after Superman was created that film technology caught up to the point where you could believe a man could fly. And that, of course, was the Christopher Reeve Superman, which today seems hopelessly dated, although it does stand as one of the best Superman movies ever made. But comics, you can get away with things in comics that you just couldn't in any other medium. And the examples are everywhere. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, it's true, it's a very successful film franchise because some producers saw the potential. And the turtles are everywhere. You can't go into a Walmart or a Target without seeing turtle attire and turtle toys. But first, it had to be a comic. And the comic legitimized the story. And this was even before it had a wide audience. I have a feeling those boys made that deal before the comic took off because the movie came out and then the comic took off by popularizing the comic. Because let's face it, even the worst movie, the biggest stinker, has an audience 10 or 100 times the size of the average comic book. Other examples of things you can do in comics that you couldn't do in any other medium are the entire work of R. Crumb or S. Clay Wilson or Gilbert Shelton. Now, I understand there's a Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers cartoon, and I'd love to see it, but first it was a comic. There's some magic that occurs between the reader and the comic book page when you stare down at a two-dimensional object that's been properly inked and colored and enter into a three-dimensional world. And we've all felt that magic. Even when the writing isn't very good, the magic is there. And we've all collected comics just for the art alone and put up with the writing so that we could have the comic. This is not to put a curse on comic book writers. I'm a comic book writer myself, but a medium is what you make of it. And there's good writing, and there's bad writing. The funny thing about comics is it's the absolute worst medium for horror there is. And the reason it's so bad is because it is a comic. It's a thing of paper that you hold in your hand. And the monster that the artist draws, and I'm thinking of Bernie Wrightson's werewolf here from Swamp Thing, the monster that the artist draws, no matter how scary or lovingly rendered, can never match the monster you see in your imagination if you're reading about it in a book, because you can conjure feelings with words that you cannot conjure in a comic book with words and pictures alone. The two best mediums for horror are prose, novels, and movies. And the reason movies are so successful is because they control the visuals, the pacing, and the sound. And you have no idea how important sound is to a horror movie until you watch The Exorcist or The Haunting. The Haunting is a black and white movie with no special effects whatsoever, no scary images whatsoever. The scariest thing in it are the sounds, but it will scare the bejesus out of you because it's a good script, and a good script is the best special effect there is. Which brings us to a project I'm working on now, which I hope will have a good script. I was kicking it around with Mike Miller. I admire Lone Star very much, and Doug Tenneple. I admire Earthworm Jim very much. And Mike said, well, let's do a Nexus, Lone Star, Bigfoot Bill crossover. So that's what we're doing. I'm writing it now. That is quite a challenge. But it proves my thesis that comics are the most forgiving medium there is, because where else would you see such a lineup? It's like teaming up Abraham Lincoln with Casper the Ghost. All right, you have Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, true enough. And I wonder if that would be possible without our long history of pulp and comics, but there it is. So that's what we're working on. I'm just doing the script now, and I'll have more when we have some art. And thank you for watching.